good afternoon. I hope you enjoyed your lunch break and you had the opportunity to do some networking. We will start now our first roundtable of this event with the theme Driving Regional Competitiveness Through Biotech Clusters and Ecosystems. I would like to invite the moderator of this session, Joana Branco, the Innovation Director at Biocant Park. Joana, do you want me to introduce? Okay. In this panel, we will have 5 speakers. So the first one is Vanneste, Investor Relations Manager from VIB in Belgium. Torrejón, Biotechnology Project Manager from AINIA in Spain. Neelam Patel, Strategy Advisor for the Health Research Authority in the UK. José Antão, Head of Innovation Policy at the National Agency for Innovation. And our last speaker, Mario Bonaccorso, is the director of the Cluster Spring in Italy. Had a problem with his flight, so he wasn't able to travel to Portugal today. So he will be attending online through Zoom. I hope it will work. Yes, Mario is there. Hello, Mario.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, the sound is not great, but I think we can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much. So, Joana,
good
the
afternoon,
floor
everybody.
is yours. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this roundtable. It is, I would say that we had our kickstart in the morning with Cindy telling us about Planet Bio. And today we're going to continue the conversation and hear from our guests about their own ecosystems, what have been the main drivers, and see the impact that these clusters are already making on their regional context. So it is really a pleasure to be here and sharing the table with all of you. I would start, and I would like to start by asking, instead of having me presenting you, I would like you to give us some words on to introduce yourself and the ecosystem that you're representing. And I would like you to start by telling us, in your experience, what have been the key drivers in order to make the ecosystem that we see nowadays. And because I know that the connection is not very stable, I'm going to ask Mario if you could start by telling us a little bit more about Cluster Spring, and what do you believe that are the key drivers that have made your cluster so successful?
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm very sorry I cannot be there, but so we are living very difficult days, specifically when we have to travel. So, SPRING is an acronym meaning Sustainable Processes and Resources for Innovation and National Growth. We are the Italian cluster of circular bioeconomy, bringing together approximately 170 stakeholders, not only based in Italy, because the cluster is open to organizations based in Europe and also outside Europe. Just to give you an example, we have as member the bio-based Europe pilot plant based in Belgium, Lancetech, which is a US company, and also Neste, which is based in Finland, or VGI, which is another small medium enterprise located in Germany. The cluster represents all the value chains of the bioeconomy, not only green chemistry. The cluster was founded as green chemistry cluster by the Ministry of Research and Innovation here in Italy. Then we enlarged our membership to all the value chains. We have also agro-food companies and organizations called Dirette e Confagricoltura, which are the main associations of farmers here in Italy, are our members. Then pulp and paper companies regional clusters, business association, and also finance. So Intesa San Paolo, which is the Italian leading banking group, and also some venture capital, also the European Bioeconomy, Circular Bioeconomy Fund based in Germany. You know, this is an initiative launched by the European Commission together with the European Central Bank. So ECBF is our member. So why we represent all the value chain? Because the bioeconomy is a meta sector, as you know, and I think what makes us successful is the will, the idea to represent not only just a sector, but this meta sector, creating connection between different value chains in order to also to be open not only to Italian stakeholders, because we know that the bioeconomy is about collaboration, and also the biotechnology is about collaboration. We have also, for sure, obviously, industrial biotech companies as members of our cluster, so small and medium enterprises located in Italy. So we, as Spring, are member of the National Coordination Board set up within the Italian Presidency of Council of Ministers. This means that the main pillars of our activity are communication and dissemination. It is important to communicate what is the bioeconomy, to make people aware what is this biorevolution and why it is important to change the mindset. Then, so the advocacy activity, public affairs activity, and so at national level, at regional level here in Italy, we have 20 regions, 21 if we consider the autonomous provinces of Trento and Bolzano. At the European level, let me conclude by saying that we launched for this reason also this European Bioeconomy Clusters Alliance together with PBio last February in Brussels, because I think it is important today to join forces in order to represent the great potential of the bioeconomy, the biotechnology, in a year where we are now waiting for the new strategy on bioeconomy, and we organized last week in Torino our International Forum on Industrial Biotechnology and Bioeconomy. The main point is that so we have in Europe so many strategies. We need to walk the talk, we need to deliver. It is really important, and for this reason I think it is important to create connection and to propose a real change in our rules and in the regulatory framework. This is one of the reasons Spring is successful, as I see it, and also the reason I think Spring and other European clusters will grow a lot the last years, because we represent not just a sector, we represent different value chains, and also the way to reconcile economy with the society and the environment.
Thank you, Marty. So we've seen a lot, we've heard from you a lot of important keywords, collaboration, of course, being one of them, value chain as also one of the important elements for the development of the cluster. Liz, you're coming from VIB. What are the main areas of expertise that coming from VIB and the cluster that it's part of, and what do you think that has been the differentiating element that VIB has brought into place?
So yes, so I'm Liz from VIB. VIB is a life sciences research institute in Belgium. So we are part of the ecosystem in Flanders, which is the northern part of Belgium. And so we are a non-profit organization, and we get a dotation from Flemish government, but also we get our funding through grants and industry income, in fact. And just to show the impact we create for the region, we did an independent impact study last year. And the result was that for every €1 the Flemish government invests in VIB, we give €12 back to the economy in Flanders. And what are the key drivers for creating that impact, it's actually based on 3 pillars where VIB is strong in. And these are to excel in science, excel in entrepreneurship, and further boost the ecosystem. And the first part, excel in science, so VIB is in partnership with the 5 Flemish universities. And so, or PIs, so we are with 2,000 scientists, 10 different research centers in human health, but also in planetary health. So we have 96 research groups, and the PIs, so leading these research groups, have a double affiliation. So they are professor at the university, but also PI at VIB. And the reason why they want to work for VIB is it's a kind of quid pro quo principle at VIB. So they get a lot of resources. We give them quite some funding, the latest technologies, but in return, they need to deliver on KPIs. So at VIB, we have a 5-yearly evaluation of our research centers. And this means that some of them, and it's about 10%, that need to leave because they do not meet the criteria anymore. And this is just to put the bar high and to keep excellent science, in fact. So that's one part. The second pillar is on the entrepreneurship, so the transfer of the science into products and technologies. Also there we have, so next to the scientists, we also have a whole group, we call it the innovation and business team, which is actually a tech transfer team that consists of industry experts that know the industry. They are coming from industry, so they scout for the research projects that are most investable. And so we have in this group our own patent attorneys, we have our business development team to collaborate with industry, we have our new ventures to create the spin-off companies, and we have a discovery science group to further de-risk certain assets, because you want to take on high-risk projects, but at VIB we de-risk a lot before we present them to the pharma companies or we create spin-off companies. So we have been successful in that. We have 30 VC-backed spin-off companies over the 30 years now. 8 of them created an exit through either an acquisition or a listing, and only 5 failed. So I think the success rate is quite high because we have this de-risking factor. And the third pillar is boosting the ecosystem. So what we do is we scout the ecosystem, we see where are the gaps, and we take initiatives. In 2015, we saw there is a high need for early stage VC money. So VIB created an early stage VC fund, which is now independent, it's VBio Ventures. But that's what we do, and that's also important. We continuously scout for the ecosystem and see what is needed and try to take initiatives for that.
Thank you, Liz. So a science-driven ecosystem, boosting, and as always, the key word is excellence, whether it's in the science or the entrepreneurship or the technology transfer process. And you're coming from a slightly different context. It's a technological center, but that has been able to specialize in a specific context and has also an impact on the surrounding area. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think that's working. So yeah, I'm coming from Spain, from a technological research center, and from our context, we work mostly with companies, companies that want to go further, with innovate and do research in different areas. We started working mostly with the agri-food sector, and we saw that there are a lot of room for biotechnology in the agri-food sector. It's not only human health. I know it's like a very fancy, but food companies are starting to innovate in the biotech process. And for us, I think the most important part is the collaboration between companies. We are kind of the next, this point of union between basic science in university and companies. So we do this kind of tech transfer. We can translate the language of science to industrial results. That all the companies at the end, what we want or what they want is economical results about what they are researching, and then they put produce in the market, and to go to the consumers and say, that's my product and this is all the innovation that I have done. And I think one of the key points to making that the biotechnological sector is is going further is to work very close to the companies and try to facilitate this kind of relationship between the companies and the innovation, because sometimes the companies don't have enough time to innovate because they have to keep the ship going, you know. So it's important to have partners that they can trust and they can work in the innovation and put the company further into the ecosystem.
So it's always starting to build a relationship, especially on the agri-food sector, to show what for years has been considered as a more traditional economy sector, and to bring them solutions and incorporating the technologies that nowadays we have available. So it's actually interesting because you're sitting side by side with Liz, so it's looking at the same problems to bring better solutions to the market, coming from the opposite way. So that's a very interesting point. Neelam, I'm going to go and ask you. So you're a strategy advisor nowadays, but you had a very important role in building what MedCity is nowadays. And we were talking about the perspective for Europe, and I think that we can still talk about that because there's forces that we need to join and to collaborate more, as we've been discussing today. So in your perspective, what were the challenges that MedCity faced in the beginning, and what you're still seeing on your everyday work that are barriers that we need to overcome in order to put together an efficient cluster?
Thank you. Yeah, where to start? So Neelam Patel, the reason I'm here is that I was a former chief executive of a cluster organisation called MedCity, which was formed in 2014 through a partnership with the 4 London universities of Imperial, UCL, King's, Queen Mary's and the Mayor of London. And you might think, well, you know, why does Imperial and UCL and the others actually need a cluster organisation to help them innovate? And actually the premise was, at the time, working together brings across a much bigger offer globally. So it wasn't about how London competed internally, it was about how we presented ourselves externally. That was in 2014. I'm no longer chief executive of MedCity, but I can tell you now that the competitiveness between the universities still exists, and collaboration is an ambition, and science does bring these universities together, but you mentioned challenges, and I mean there are many challenges, but let me just give you what I thought would be interesting, actually, to give you some data, actually, just so that you can contextualize where London is. So Greater London has a population of 16 million people. There are the 4 universities, but there are also many large research institutions that are linked with these universities, as well as many teaching hospitals and specialist hospitals. In terms of the startup environment, this is data from last year. There are over 1,000 startups in London, of which over 300 were spin-outs from these universities, which represents about 27% of spin-outs in the UK. The funding for London across biotech for these spin-outs reached about £1.9 billion last year, which is pretty significant. And the jobs that are created within London as a result of life sciences last year were about 35,000. So you sort of get a picture of where London is, but there are still many challenges. So we were talking a bit earlier about cybersecurity and how that's paralysed the airports. Well, fortunately, London has pivoted quite a lot in terms of what it sees its specialism to be, and I'm generalising here. So over the last 2 weeks, there have been some major shifts in terms of industry investment in London. So you may have heard that AstraZeneca pulled its £1 billion research centre out of London, closely followed by, what did I say? I think it was Merck. Did I say AstraZeneca? It was Merck, followed by AstraZeneca and GSK and Lilly were also looking at their longer-term investment in London. So the following week, NVIDIA invested £1 billion in London, followed by Google, who invested in a data centre, as well as Microsoft. So what does that say? Well, what it says is that the environment has changed since when MedCity was formed in 2014. And some of the universities have actually diversified, not in terms of talent and their specialism, because their specialism has always been in, or certainly Imperial, always been in data, bioengineering, AI, but they've tried to shift some of their emphasis on entrepreneurialism and supportive innovation around some of these areas, because that's really what is attracting these different types of companies. So I guess, the one thing I would say in terms of challenges is recognizing strengths and pivoting funding channels and support to those strengths is critical. The other challenge has been for London is where the government and national policymakers are trying to dilute funding, I shouldn't say dilute, equalize funding across the country. So London is seen to be gaining quite a lot of grant funding over the past years, and there are two key things. Why is innovation important? Why are clusters formed? So the government invests in addressing health challenges, but also a challenging fiscal environment. And when there are both of those two, then they look to innovate and to fund innovation. And certainly outside of London, there are significant health inequalities and significant employment issues. However, there is talent there. So to fund those regions outside of London has been seen to be important, particularly in the last two governments. But that has had an impact on London in the sense that they've received less grant funding as a result, and which has meant actually that the universities have had to innovate themselves in growing their entrepreneurial environment to boost their spin-out activity and get investment in different ways. So, those are just a couple of the examples I would say that London has tried to address some of these challenges. I guess the last thing to say, which addresses the point we were talking about, regulation is clearly a challenge, and attracting companies to come and invest is all about market and how easy it is to get regulatory approval. And in some respects, that's one of the reasons why I keep saying AstraZeneca, Merck, decided to pull the environment, to pull their research program because of the pricing and reimbursement challenges. However, to capitalize on AI and data, the UK is very much accelerating the regulatory framework around AI, with our regulatory agency trying to lead the way. And one of the things, I say this tongue-in-cheek, the UK says, okay, well, we're out of the EU, but that gives us an opportunity to do things differently. Well, I would say yes. However, companies won't look at just one market. They will want to globalize, and so in doing so, there has to be harmony across all countries. So, if the UK are going for a new streamlined AI framework, regulatory framework, then, my colleagues that are sitting next to me should also join in, because that's the way to build innovation.
Can get this one.
So I was mentioning that as we heard before, having important universities backing the discovery and the research is always a starting point to attract the companies, but then it has to do with other elements as well. And the regulatory context that we were just discussing is, of course, one element as well. José, I know that you're on a different point of view here, so not much as cluster representative, but from someone, an entity that it's also very involved in defining some of the strategies and that guide innovation in the country. And while we most of the times focus on pinpointing what's wrong, it's also interesting to hear from someone that works to put together the tools for the innovators to thrive. So we would love to hear a point of view on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, this one works. Well, thank you. Yes, I'm not a cluster, I'm not a regulator. I'm here in different capacity, but I also profit from having the other interventions before me, so I can piggyback on some of those comments. And I think I'd like to start by recognizing that actually the connection to the sources of knowledge is very important, and I want to acknowledge the fact that we're sitting here in the municipality of Oeiras, because this is a very important part of the country for biotechnology and for medical or biological sciences in general. And I think historically this has had an impact that is not, I cannot overstate when I say that we are sitting here together and that this has had a big impact on it. This said, I would again like look at the comments about London and how there's a divestment maybe from London in order to equalize funding in other regions of the UK. And considering the differences in size, of course, at every level, we have also, when we talk about clusters, we have a challenge in Portugal, which is maybe, let's say, an over-reliance on structural funds that make formal clusters more likely to appear elsewhere than in the Lisbon area, because there's less availability of funds here for that kind of investment than there is in other countries. So this, of course, creates a bit of an artificial delocation of investments in the biotech area, which then the actual intervenience in the ecosystem can contribute to even out and to create mechanisms to level the playing field for everyone. So I was very happy to hear from Filipa that you have this study ongoing, and I think several of the weaknesses that were identified are on aspects that we are trying to have an intervention. So namely, some of it is very difficult for us to intervene directly. For instance, on investment, we have limited resources, so we have some instruments which are being worked with ourselves, with Startup Portugal, with Banco Português de Fomento, and we want to invest more in this ecosystem, but also we know that there is a fragility in our VC ecosystem in that we don't have many, or we have very few specialized VCs in this domain. So I think in this area it's very important that we connect with European initiatives and the added capacity that they bring to this. And this is something that the biotech community is better equipped to do, I think, than other communities, because the collaborations are very strong in life sciences and in biotechnology. For instance, we have EU Life, which I think is one strong collaboration between organizations in which FIP and I don't know what's the status, because it used to be IGC. I don't know if GIM now is part of that or not. But I think some of those capacities for looking for potential of innovation and spin-offs, I think that can be leveraged in the context of partnerships such as EU Life. Also, on technology transfer, we're starting to put together a plan for working with the TTO structures and help raising their capacity for technology transfer to bring more of those innovations into the market. We don't have anything directly to do with legal regulatory aspects, but we do manage the network of regulatory sandboxes, which I don't think there's anything on this particular domain. But again, I think a lot of the initiative should in some way come from the community in informing us of where the needs are. And we should be, let's say, at least I see myself as a champion of the community and try to help implement the needs that you identify. Of course, with limited resources, because we don't work just on biotechnology, we work on every aspect of the innovation ecosystem in the country. But we have that role. Finally, you also identified the ecosystem fragmentation. I think, again, PBio is a good example of how you can bring that together, and I think you're doing a wonderful job. We also try to do that through, for instance, exercises of mapping technology infrastructures, and we are going to try to take that to a next level and systematize catalogs of services which can be useful for startups and for other agents in the ecosystem to facilitate the access to the resources that they need to develop their products and services. So this, of course, this is from a perspective that is, I mean, I have a mix of institutional and a personal perspective on this. And mind you, I'm coming from an institution that is about to maybe disappear. But the projects that we have ongoing are things that are going to continue no matter what. So you have the commitment of us that we'll continue to work on that.
Just the name that is disappearing, because the aim to put together the ecosystem and make it grow, I'm pretty sure that the goal is still the same. So I'm going backwards now. So Neelam, I'm going back to you again. We've talked about what could be the constraints, but if you have to pick one or two key elements that in your experience have been the real drive for the ecosystem to evolve? Is it government support, specialized VC, talent, dedicated infrastructure, academia, industry collaboration? I know that we could say all of those, but we know that these are the ingredients, but at specific time points, one or the other makes it a difference. In this, the ecosystem creation that you've been involved, what were the ones that you, looking backwards, you see, no, that was really important for us?
Well, you'd think I'd be able to work a microphone now, but I can't do that. So I guess I would be biased, actually, to say that a cluster organization that has the agenda of promoting collaboration, of increasing entrepreneurialism, and to support institutions to get government funding in the right way is probably the biggest, thing that promotes an ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem, and this is what MedCity tried to do. Without MedCity, of course, the universities, the anchor institutions would go about their own way of spinning out, of using their tech transfer offices, of using their, business offices to create, their own sort of individual ecosystems. And in some respects, that is already happening in London. So there are innovation clusters within London themselves anchored around the universities. But I think to create a more collaborative environment that is open to more sort of diversity, I guess, and better innovation. Having a neutral party that brings players together is pivotal. So I'll just give you an example, actually. And as somebody said to me, they said, you know, the best way to innovate is to decrease friction and increase collision. And you know, this is what happened during COVID, actually. And somebody else said to me, you need a good crisis to bring everybody together. Which, so sorry for the two sort of cliches. And the reason why that was important is because during COVID, as I'm sure you know many of you remember, there was the need for early diagnostics as well as therapeutics, and what the innovation cluster did was actually bring together the relevant players so that they could combine to be an alliance to seek government funding to enable that innovation to happen quicker, sharing from each other's scientific expertise, opening up laboratories to create diagnostic centres, as well as to use the business support that the cluster provided to engage with smaller companies who perhaps already had the platform technology. So what that did was mobilize something in a way that individually it would have been very hard for universities to do. And I have to say that one of my universities at the time, and I'm not going to say who it was, did end up trying to do it on their own, and actually they failed in getting the funding. So you know, what can I say? There's strength in numbers, and you know, having interventions that allows this to happen has been, you know, critical in my experience.
Thank you. Anna, you've mentioned that your work is based directly with the companies. So I would say that your case is actually a true example on the impact of technology on the industry. Is that perception real clear for the regional context? Because sometimes one thing that we also struggle is to show, to measure by numbers, or to showcase our authorities why investing in innovation is relevant. But you're working directly with the industry. Is this message easy to pass on?
It's difficult to show because, first of all, companies, when they do the research, sometimes they don't want to advertise that they are doing that research. So it's sometimes difficult to measure or to communicate this kind of achievements to governments and to see the funding that they put in service, you know. In that case, companies, what they need is to listen. What they do is to listen to the market. In that case, and then they try to meet the market expectation with doing the research. So sometimes it's difficult because when they do the research, they don't want to share. So it's because it's always the IP, who has the IP, how it's protected. This is going to be patent, it's going to be under industrial secret. So normally they do their research low-key. So it's difficult to measure, for example, for the big companies to demonstrate that they are doing that kind of research.
So how do you attract your clients?
What we do, or how we know, is we can show the technology. We are experts to listen to the market, and the consumers want that, so you better do that, because if not, your company or your competitor is going to do that, and they start to innovate in that context. But we need also the help of the authorities. We need to attract funding, because all the companies are not able, but not willing to do this kind of research if they don't have this kind of finance and it's kind of difficult sometimes to put in the market. With the startups, it's easier because they need this kind of investment with this round. They want to publish what they do. It's easier to work with. But with well-established companies, and for example, with companies from the agri-food sector that are quite traditional, one secretive, it's difficult to put it together to try to work together into one goal. I know it's kind of unbalanced. So you have to balance to show the innovation that you do, but to keep the important things in private.
Liz, VIB is well known for being at the top of the innovation. What do you think that should be the strategy to keep it that way in a world that a lot of technologies are emerging, and how can VIB still be a relevant player? So basically, you've managed to establish a very well-known cluster. There's a strong connection with startups, with the academia. Always being in touch with the latest technologies has to be one of the drivers. What do you think is going to be the next wave of technology that is going to be relevant for VIB to keep its lead on the development?
So indeed, we have our research groups that are focusing on specific areas, and as I said, they are evaluated on a 5-yearly basis to keep the bar high. Now, the next technologies, so we have specific areas we focus on. For instance, we do not on cell therapies, which is these days a lot of companies working on as well. So I think it's important also to have a certain strategy to focus on and see where we are. Our latest centers was of course, on artificial intelligence, that are working with the different centers so that we keep up with these technologies as well, especially in terms of drug discovery. Difficult to say from in my position to say which will be the next technologies, but I think it's really to keep, let's say, that excellence we strive for is very important to attract, to make sure that we have the rules in place, that we can attract scientists all over the world, in fact, that the regulations are there, that we can actually do that. We have a close relationship with the government to also keep that funding, because funding is a really crucial part, of course, in our business. And then keep on working closely with industry partners. So we closely work with pharma companies to see what are the needs, what do they need, and can we actually also deliver on certain aspects of that, because they rely on our innovation pipeline for their R&D program. So that's definitely what we do as well. We have close relationship with these pharma companies. So yeah, I would say, not sure what the new next technologies will be for VIB, but what we do is we keep close relationship with the pharma companies, with government and other biotech companies to make sure we have it.
So if I was to ask the same question I asked Neelam about which were the key elements during the setup that were most relevant, this proximity both with the government and the connection academia industry could be possibly one of the drivers to make sure that VIB stands where it is right now.
Yeah, so for me the key driver, or for us, I would say the key driver is the spin-off creation, is creating these spin-off companies, because that of course attracts talent. You need space, you need the funding for that. And when these spin-off companies grow and exit, then the money flows back to early stage VC investment, which is again a boost for the ecosystem. So we need more exits, I would say, from these spin-off companies as well. On the other hand, in an ecosystem, you need some clear winners. So we had like a company like Ablings, which was a spin-off from VIB acquired by Sanofi. But this really is a big boost for the ecosystem. A lot of
success stories.
A success story. A lot of the VC money went back to the early stage VC investors, then could invest in other companies. We have an Organics also in our ecosystem, which is now the largest European biotech companies. So this is also important for a thriving ecosystem. You need some clear winners as well.
We all need role models, and seeing success stories for sure boosts the ecosystem. Mario, I hope that you were able to listen to the contributions, and from your initial intervention, you mentioned how your cluster managed to put together all the different stakeholders. Are those the key ingredients for that Europe as a whole should be looking into to make sure that we are able to create a larger ecosystem where we're putting all the countries together to create a true value chain?
Yeah, first of all, let me say, obviously, as an initiative launched by the Ministry of Research and University in Italy, in our membership we have also many universities, and the cluster is the place where there is a very strong connection between research and industrialization. The point is that, as I see it, at European level, this is not only an Italian issue. We are very good at research and innovation, but we are not so good at scaling up and industrialization. I think this is the point, also the key challenge we have, because it's now the time to be very aware of the competition at world level, and we have to know if we want to be the producer of the innovation or or if we want to buy the innovation produced by someone else in other countries. And we have to think as Europeans, and when I say Europeans, I think also the Brits are in this consideration, not only the European Union. This means, from our point of view, first of all, as a bioeconomy cluster, we don't represent the pharmaceutical companies, because you know that in the European definition of bioeconomy doesn't encompass the pharmaceuticals, even if in some parts of the biopharmaceuticals, there are aspects related to the bioeconomy also in Europe. This is a big difference between US and Europe, and probably also the UK. But what I would like to highlight is that we are not good at supporting the innovation. So we have the innovation, but there is the markets for the innovation we are producing. And this is a very bad point for Europeans, because this means also to have a lot of waste of resources, of money. For sure, so we have approximately 60 universities in our clusters. Each university considers itself as a very good university in making research. What is very complicated is to create this connection between big industries and the universities. Also, when we talk about spin-off and startups, because one other barriers that I see in my role of observer at Spring, at our cluster, is that also there is a difference of mindset between US and Europe, for sure, between Italy in this case. The professor at universities don't want, in some cases, or in many cases, to set up a new company because they are good as a professor at university. And I think this is a way also to understand the situation we have in Europe, where the startups are always looking for investments, and there is a shortage of venture capital in the bioeconomy. There are many in pharmaceuticals, there are not in the bioeconomy, we try to attract some investors from abroad, but it's very complicated because in the US or also in the UK, they have many startups in the bioeconomy and they don't need to come to Europe. And this is also the reason why the European Commission launched the European Circular Bioeconomy Fund that I mentioned before. So I think we need to work a lot to create the right awareness, first of all in the public opinion, but also in our politicians, because they don't understand what is the bioeconomy, what is the competition, they need to scale up. You know that there are many plants. I mentioned also in this case the bio-based Europalo plant in Belgium. There is CPI in UK, VTT in Finland, also the Fraunhofer, Leuna in Germany. There is not this shared pilot facility in Southern Europe. And also in Southern Europe, we are producing a lot of innovation and research to be applied to scale up. But we are not in the condition to scale up, because all the shared pilot facilities are full of applications. So I think there is a huge movement at European level. Then we need to have the right regulatory framework in order to recognize the innovation, and also, as far as I'm concerned, the role of cluster, because you mentioned many times the role of cluster, the challenge we have, but there is not a recognition of the role of cluster at the European level, and this is also one goal of the alliance we launched together with the PBio, because so we act as a facilitator, as a place of meetings and connection between stakeholders, but there is no recognition by the European Commission, and also in the case of bioeconomy, there is not a recognition at the regulatory framework, at the regulatory level of the bioeconomy. You know, we are waiting for the strategy on the bioeconomy, but next year we will have the Circular Economy Act and also the EU Biotech Act. There is no, so the Bioeconomy Act, I think that we have to, we need really an holistic approach in order to consider all in one way to support innovation, to support scale up, and to support the creation of a market that we need. And just let me conclude with an example coming from the US. They launched many years ago the BioPrefer program, a GPP with standards label managed by the USDA. And this is a case how to create a market, because if the companies invested in innovation, then creating new product, but there is not the awareness, what is the bio-based content of a product, and also we cannot recognize what is bio-based and what is not bio-based, then I think the bio-based product could have no markets, and this is a bad situation for all Europe, and I think not only for our 27 single markets.
Thank you, Mario. Before I go on and ask one final word to our panelists, I would like to see if there's any question from the audience. Okay, so I think we can continue. We only have 10 minutes left. We knew that from the start that we would like to be here for longer, but well, in our context here in Portugal, we're still in the process of putting all of these examples into practice, and you've talked a lot about collaboration, the importance of having an identity and talent. You've mentioned that in some particular points, some are more relevant. If you were to give some sort of advice to Portugal, in where should we be focusing on to really make that push? And it's also important because you're looking it from the outside, let's say. So you have a fresh perspective on the ecosystem. Is there any suggestion that you would like to give us? And I'll start again with Mario. I know that it's difficult to give questions.
Sorry, I didn't catch exactly what you asked for.
So I was saying that listening to your contributes helps us to look into our specific context to try to make the most out of these advices and see what works best for our ecosystem. But for all of you, you're looking from the outside, so more of a fresh perspective on how the ecosystem looks like. So looking from the outside, what would be the advice that you would give the ecosystem in Portugal to make sure that we are either better aligned, or how can we make the most out of the research that we have, the already good examples of companies we have, and some of the infrastructures. So how can we make that jump to become a more relevant ecosystem?
I think learn from the best. I know you have at least a couple of very good innovative companies in Portugal. Let me say hello to Simão Soares, the president of Bio and Civico Life, also Biotrend. But I think that as Portuguese people and also as a Southern European, we must join forces in order to represent our main characteristic of countries and also of research. I think the blue biotechnology in the field of biotechnology, the use of marine biomass as raw materials for the bioeconomy, and also our own biodiversity. There are many examples of how the Northern European are good in joining forces. It's time for us to join forces. This is the pillar of the project Bio South that we are coordinating, and where we are bringing together a few countries from Southern Europe, such as Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, Cyprus, and also Slovenia and France for the southern side of France that is on the Mediterranean. I think now we have to join forces also to represent our sector at European level. I think the voice of Portuguese companies probably is not so strong in Brussels, and we need really to have a regulatory framework which is coherent and stable to favor the investments, and also the attractiveness of investments from abroad. Because when a company is not sure what is the rules and the legislation it has in a country, I mean at European level, then the investment move abroad, and we have seen this in the case of biofuels and in the case of bioplastics. The bioplastics directive didn't create a market for the compostable plastics, and this means to avoid and to make the investments of Total Energy Scorpio in France go to Thailand, and also to stop the investment of NatureWorks in the Netherlands to move also in this case to Thailand. I think Southern European countries could be, and Europe at all, could be the right place to make investments if we have clear ideas and a clear regulatory framework to attract companies from outside Europe.
Thank you, Marty. So among several things that you mentioned, the stability, not only on the investment context, but also on the regulatory, you pointed out as one of the things that not only Portugal, but the South European countries should be looking into. So, Liz, I'm going to pass on to you. So I know that you haven't been here long, but I'm hoping that you've looked at it from the outside. We don't have a lot of time, I know that, but I would like to hear from you what would be your suggestion, focusing on which of the topics that we've talked today.
Well, first of all, indeed, this morning session, I learned more about the Portuguese ecosystem, and I must say, you already have a good ecosystem, and there is always room for improvement, of course, and where you can further boost. It's again, I think it's important to have keep on the excellence in science and excellence in the entrepreneurship, and this you can do through education and through you need funding as well for both of it, especially for the entrepreneurship. So to really make the translation from the fundamental research into companies, you need dedicated teams for that. You cannot rely on I believe you cannot rely on the shoulders of the professors at the academia. They are good in the research work. You have these tech transfer units who are specialized and really know how to make the businesses. So I would say it's a different discipline, and really also make sure you have the educational programs for the entrepreneurs and the funding specific for these tech transfer offices as well.
Thank you, Liz. You really touched on a point that would give us another half hour and so to talk, that we all know that we have improved quite a lot over the past years, but we still need to get better mechanisms and training in order to make the excellence research that we have in the context of universities to come out and reach the industry. So definitely something that we should be working on more. Thank you. Anna, same question for you.
I think there are quite similarities between the Portuguese ecosystem and the Spanish ecosystem. We are neighbors. So from our perspective, what we think is important is, I said before, to listen to the market, because if there is a need, there is a way. So everything goes, if something is needed, everything goes around. There will be funding, there will be investment, there will be knowledge that are to put into the task. So I think what it is important is, and I think, for example, it was said in this roundtable with the COVID, every put an effort to reach the solution. And from our perspective, the companies go to success when startups transition to a startup to a renowned company is when they cover a need and a specific need to the market. And I think it's important not to lose that.
There's definitely one lesson that we got from COVID among many others, but that when we join efforts, we can make it work, and collaboration again has been something that we've mentioned quite often. Gather efforts instead of competing with each other. Neelam, what's your advice?
So I've got three things. The first thing is that there is a lot of scientific talent here, and so to be able to nurture that talent, to map that talent, to understand where those strengths are across the country, I think is really valuable. The second is to make sure that there is enough funding to support that talent, particularly around business growth and understanding the market, where you say, because very often that is overlooked. And the third thing is, if you're investing in infrastructure to make sure there's enough space to scale that talent, then make sure it's flexible. Because having learnt from experience, some infrastructure is developed which isn't flexible enough to cope with the diversifying needs of these scale-ups, particularly in the age of data, computational biology, the need for data centers and other things. So those would be my three things.
Thank you. José? You're part of the ecosystem, but still you can, after listening to all of these different views and contributions, I know that you're a team player and we're all on the same side, but I would like to have your vision as well.
Yeah, well, thank you. As you say, I was here mostly taking notes because we have to structure some of the support mechanisms to help this ecosystem flourish. I wanted to make just a couple of comments because I think time is up, but One thing is, I don't want to be misunderstood when I was mentioning this ecosystem in Oeiras, and don't want that to be interpreted as this being better than the other ones. We have, especially having you sit on that end of the stage. This was mostly for historical context, and of course we have a lot of talent and capacity in different parts of the country. And this links up also with regional development strategies. One of the things that we do at the agency is to coordinate the national smart specialization strategy, which then links up with the regional strategies. And those are mechanisms to drive investments in some areas. So a lot of this comes down to, let's say, lobby, not in a bad way, lobby actually as it should exist, so that the actors in the different regions should lobby to show what the importance of investing in those domains is. And so I think for a lot of this, the community should be organized as you are, and to lobby the different levels of government to implement the things that you think are needed to make the ecosystem work better. And so this is valid for the smart specialization strategies, for now these emerging technology strategies that we are working out with the Plan Up and with FCT. But also for legislation, there's going to be discussion around the new CFID tax credit legislation for next year. And we know that from some communities, the rules that exist do not fit very well the needs of certain startups, for instance. So this is something that the community should organize and produce information that we can use in the legislative and in the policymaking process. As for the rest of the suggestions, I'm of course taking notes, especially these things on the technology transfer. Of course we can help, but it has to come from the organizations, from the universities to put up those structures. And I think we are going to be very willing to help in training and in linking them up with the other mechanisms that we have.
Thank you, José. And I'm going to be thanking all your contributes and all your advices. We've been talking that one of the key elements would be learning from others. And I think that all of us have done this today. And I'm sure that we can continue counting on your advice and your support. And hopefully we will remember this conversation as also an important contribution for the ecosystem to grow. Thank you all.